So this is something that I thoroughly enjoy about 4Kids is that they actually assign the word Winx a meaning instead of it just being a silly word that Bloom came up with. Hey there, welcome to the Winx Forever podcast. I'm Lola, creator, host, and lifelong Winx fan. I'm taking a deep dive into the very cool universe of Winx Club. So join me each week as we rewatch and discuss each episode starting with season 1 of the original series. So whether you've been a Winx fan since 2004 like myself, or you vaguely remember the show from your childhood, or maybe if you're even being introduced to it for the first time, I want to say welcome. This is the Winx Forever podcast. Hey guys, welcome back to the Winx Forever podcast. It's your girl, Lola. This week we are continuing our Winx Club Season 1 rewatch with Episode 2. If you are new here, this season we are going through the Winx Club original series episode by episode and discussing it, the original English version versus the 4Kids version even, and just kind of dissecting the themes, the plots, the character arcs, pretty much everything that you would ever want in a Winx Club rewatch podcast episode. So I'm excited to dive into this episode, season 1, episode 2. In the English version, it is called Welcome to Magix, but in the 4Kids version, it is called More Than High School. The synopsis reads, Bloom and Stella are assigned the same dormitory with Flora, Musa, and Tekna. The 5 girls become best friends, and so the Winx Club is formed. Bloom encounters the 3 notorious witches from Cloud Tower, Icy, Darcy, and Stormy. So let's get into it. Bloom and Stella arrive at Alfea. This picks up right where episode 1 left off. They are overlooking kind of the lake and they see Alfea in the distance. And Bloom's parents want to go check it out with her, but they can't because there is an invisible wall, an invisible barrier preventing them from going any further. It's really funny. This scene in the English version, it's funny because the parents are like, oh, well, I guess this is where we, leave you, like, see you later, visit us when you can, that sort of thing, like very nonchalant. In the 4Kids version, I love the creativity and just, I don't really know, like the way that 4Kids handled this scene, because instead of them being so nonchalant and just fine with sending off their daughter, like to this realm that they just found out existed yesterday, like Stella kind of apologizes that like, hey, yeah, there is an invisible wall. It keeps non-magical creatures out of Magix. And even though I can't take you any further, she shows Mike and Vanessa this, she calls it the official Alfea school slide globe. And it's this glowing globe that she shows them. And when she shows it to them, this whole montage like appears on screen. And so it gives us sort of a preview into season 1. It shows a lot of different clips of fairies arriving at Alfea. It even, funny enough, shows a clip of Diaspro at the Day of the Royals at Red Fountain in the 4Kids dub, but that is way, way later on in the show. But as it's sliding through all of these different images and moving images and stuff, there is a song that is playing underneath it. And it is, oh my gosh, like, I feel like you either love or you hate this song. It only appears once in the series, but then in season 2, it comes up again just briefly. And it's like one of those things that, like, if you know it, you know it, because it's sung by Stella in season 2 at their like slumber party as a joke. Anyway, but can I just roll you a clip of it? I'll just roll you a clip of it. So that is the song. I don't know if I'll get sued for that. Probably not, because 4Kids doesn't exist anymore. So yeah, that is the that's the Althea official slide globe that Stella shows to Mike and Vanessa. After that is when they say their goodbyes. Like, Stella is like, come on, Bloom, let's go. We don't want to be late or whatever. Really funny. I also like that they showed Kiko go through the barrier just fine, and Kiko like kind of like checks himself, like kind of like pats himself, like, why did I go through? Like everyone else is thinking, like, is Kiko magic? Is he not? What is happening? So I think that is a really nice touch, because later on in the series we find out that Kiko does have some like innate like magical power in him, because he can fly, and he's got like other like, he's just like a very odd little bunny, like he's not normal. He's not just a little bunny from Gardenia, just like Bloom isn't a little girl from Gardenia. So so after saying their goodbyes, they cross the barrier and they arrive at the school. I really like the courtyard scene because you can see like Tekna and Misa and Flora, like in the background, mixed in with the background characters that we're about to meet, in the dormitories anyway. So that's like a really nice touch. It almost reminds me of the courtyard scene in Fate, because you get kind of these foreshadowings of these main characters just kind of hanging out, which I think is a nice nod to the original show in Fate, but I digress. So they get up to sign in, and Bloom's like, oh no, like I'm not going to be on the list. What's going to happen? And so Stella comes up with this plan. Stella is like, I've got this letter from this princess for me to give to the headmistress because she can't come. So I'm just not going to give it to her, and you will pretend to be this princess. Bloom automatically is like, I don't think that lying is going to be the best way for me to start my new life in this school. But, she trusts Stella because what other option does she have, So, so they get up to this scary looking lady. Her name is Griselda. She's the head of discipline at Althea. And they say that her name is Veranda of Callisto. Very funny. In the 4Kids dub, they renamed Veranda's home planet to Valisto with a V instead of Callisto. They did a lot of this in the 4Kids dub. Like Domino is called Sparks, Valtor in season 3 is called Baltor with a B, and like the list goes on. But it's always interesting to see what changes they decided to make and which ones they actually kept true to the original series. But for the most part, they seem to keep the order of the events the same in this episode, and they don't switch out a lot like they did the scenes in the first episode. But Griselda is like really shocked to see Stella, and she mentions that she didn't expect to see her again this year after the thing that she did last year, which Bloom is like, what did she do last year? Like, who am I hanging out with? But they get checked in, and Griselda like is going over the rules of the school with the newcomers and explains why they have the rules that they do. And a big part of it is because of what Stella did last year. She then explains to all the students that Stella exploded, like just completely like demolished a potions laboratory. And because she blew up the potions lab, that's what led to her being expelled apparently last year. What's really funny is that in the 4Kids dub, she mentions that she was trying to create a new shade of pink, and that's what led to the explosion. And she mentions that her parents had donated a new computer lab, and like, I mean, it's the king and queen of Solaria. Of course, they, are not going to not admit Stella to come back to school at Althea after that. So it's just, royal problems, I guess. So then Farragonda arrives while lightheartedly saying to not let Griselda scare them too much. And she introduces the new fairies to Althea. And she leads everyone into the entrance of Althea, and Faragonda gives them a very inspirational speech and tells them to avoid the witches of Cloud Tower. And then Griselda dismisses everyone. This whole scene with Faragonda in the courtyard is absolutely omitted in the 4Kids dub. And it just transitions into them in the courtyard to the entrance hall of Althea instead. So I guess that is a minor change that 4Kids made to this episode. Like, you know, like it wasn't really needed. So they just were like, take it out. So after Griselda dismisses everyone, all the students head for their assigned dorm rooms. And on the way there, Stella explains to Bloom who the witches are and about the 3 schools and Magix. And so as Bloom and Stella walk through the dorms and Bloom asks her like who these Cloud Tower witches are, Stella obviously explains like there are 3 schools, Althea, Cloud Tower, and Red Fountain. But this is where I really, really think 4Kids did a great job. In the 4Kids dub, this scene's dialogue is completely different because in the 4Kids version, Stella already explained the 3 schools in the first episode after she took Bloom through her express postcard portal to check out Althea. And so she didn't need to re-explain it in this scene. So instead, Bloom asks Stella what Winx is. So this is something that I thoroughly enjoy about 4Kids is that they actually assign the word Winx a meaning instead of it just being a silly word that Bloom came up with. So we first hear the word Winx in the previous episode in the 4Kids dub when Bloom meets Stella in the park, and Stella says to Bloom after she kind of, you know, wards off the ogre and the ghouls with her surprise magic blasts.
Wow, you've got Winx, girl, major Winx. What, me? What do you mean?
And then later on in the episode, when they are in Bloom's room, when Bloom says,
wow, I can't believe that I really do know magic. And I have, what did you call it? Winx? Your magic's always.
But in this scene in episode 2, before they are released to go to their dorms, Faragonda encourages the new students to use every opportunity to connect to your Winx. So on their way to the dorms, Bloom asks Stella to explain, to which Stella says that Winx is essentially 3 things. First, it's their source of power, as in their strength and energy. 2, it's what guides them. And thirdly, it's their magical identity as fairies. So this was something, in my opinion, that 4Kids did a great job with, and I really applaud them for it. So they get to their dorm rooms, and Stella explains that she's got no roommate. She's got a whole room to herself. And then Bloom's like, well, I have a roommate. She enters the room that has Veranda's name on it, and she accidentally steps on a vine, which yells and screams and starts talking. And it's like, that hurt, you know, like, why did you step on me? Then she meets her roommate, Flora. While Flora introduces herself, Bloom accidentally introduces herself as Bloom instead of her alias Veranda, who she's posing as. And Stella makes her quickly like correct herself, and she instead tells Flora that she's Veranda, not Bloom. After that, she meets Tekna, and Musa also comes in and makes a joke about Stella not blowing up the dorm, which I think is very funny. And then Stella suggests that they all go out to the City of Magix for dinner. And it's really funny that in the Ray English version, Bloom suggests getting pizza and nobody knows what that is, which I think is believable because, I mean, who would know what an Italian food dish is in Magix? But later in the series, in season 3, the Winx actually go out for pizza in Magix. So it's really funny. Like, did Bloom introduce pizza to the realm of Magix? We will never know. However, it makes a lot of sense in the 4Kids dub, because in the 4Kids dub, they do know what pizza is in Magix. And that's actually what Stella suggests they go out to Magix to get for dinner, is pizza. So a slight variance is there in the 4Kids Ray dub. Also, what wasn't in the 4Kids dub, which I thought was super weird, was Griselda spying on them as they were leaving Althea. Like, what the actual heck? Like, was that just to like identify that like, ooh, Griselda like knows there's something up. She knows that Bloom's not who she says she is, that sort of thing. Like, I don't know, it's just weird and awkward, and I didn't like that. So they get to downtown, and Bloom is like heavily disappointed that the capital of the realm isn't like the wizarding world out of a Harry Potter book, when she doesn't see dragons or gnomes or wizards or wand shops. But as they make their way to the cafe, Nut, the ogre we saw in the previous episode, recognizes the girls as as he's shopping for a new pair of glasses, because again, in the last episode, he couldn't get a good look at the girls he was trying to fight because he wasn't wearing his glasses and he didn't like his glasses. So that's really funny continuation from the last episode of like, he didn't like his glasses. He was shopping for new ones. And so he recognizes the girls. He follows them, and he also calls who we will soon learn is the Tricks. And the Tricks kind of are like, well, we're going to capture Stella and steal her scepter, which is what they were after in the previous episode as well. Meanwhile, Bloom tries to call home with her cell phone at dinner, and she notices that it doesn't work. Like, her cell phone is not working. And Techno offers to help and laughs at her cell phone for being quote unquote ancient technology. And Bloom leaves to find a magic phone to call home in Magix, but Bloom gets distracted when she spots Nut watching her friends. So in the 4Kids version, instead of apologizing for laughing at Bloom's phone, Techna actually offers Bloom for her to use her phone card for the Interrealm phone booth to call Callisto. It was very interesting. Another thing that I noticed that I didn't really like in the sequence of these scenes in the Ray English dub is how Bloom is like almost explaining to the audience what she is seeing, as if we can't conclude what's happening from simply watching the show ourselves. Like, when she's talking to herself as she follows Nut, she's like, I'm sure it's him, the creature that attacked us in Gardenia. Like, yeah, no doubt, we know that. And then she's like, oh, he's watching my friends. Like, oh, yes, we see that too, Bloom. Great job. You're a true detective. And then she's like, but where is he now? I must find him. Like, girl, like, we're going to know what you're doing when you do it. Just do it and just show us. Don't tell us. So obviously the 4Kids cut all of that part of the scene out because it wasn't really necessary. And in the 4Kids, they just jump straight to Bloom following him into the alley where he meets up with the Tricks. Funny enough, also in the 4Kids dub, the Witches of Cloud Tower, like Icy, Darcy, and Stormy, they are not called the Tricks. That is something that is also omitted from the 4Kids dub, is the Tricks just don't have a name. They're just the senior witches from Cloud Tower. They're just, I don't know what to tell you. It's just, I don't know. Don't miss an episode of the Winx Forever podcast. Follow the show on your preferred streaming platform so that you're notified when new episodes are released. So Darcy clones herself, finds Bloom, reveals her hiding spot, and the whole Ray English dub in this scene is like, the dialogue is so cringe when Bloom meets Icy, Darcy, and Stormy. Gross. Bad vibes. I don't like. So Bloom's like, oh, I'm a fairy, and then makes the lamest attempt at giving an energy blast, and it kind of boop boop peters out and doesn't doesn't do anything. And so Icy, Darcy, and Stormy kind of witch her up and blast her. Icy traps her in ice and freezes Bloom, and then it flashes back to the Winx. And they're like, where did Bloom go? They still think she's Veranda. So they're like, where did Veranda go? She should be back by now. And they're like, I don't know. Let's go look for her. And then they find her basically, in a frozen block of ice. And her friends are like, let her go. Icy sends Nut to go attack the Winx, and they transform and become their fairy forms. So they each get a turn using their different powers on the ogre, and you kind of get to see what each girl's powers are. So you see that Techna is a really technology fairy. Flora, has flowers and plants, and that Misa is, fairy of music. So they each use spells that kind of display like, oh, they're the fairy of this. That makes sense. So then after they defeat Nut, the Tricks then start to attack the Winx, and they prove to be a lot more powerful. So Stella notices this, and she turns her ring into her scepter, and she transports her and her friends safely out of there. And Icy is furious. It's funny because this scene in the Right English version, the fight scene is so slow. It happened a lot faster in the 4Kids dub. So it's wild to me that the Ray English dub is a lot of people's preferred English dub of the show. And it couldn't be me, fam. I couldn't be. So as Stella is bethawing Bloom, she accidentally lets slip that her name is Bloom. She's from Earth, whatever. And the other girls are like, Stella, what did you just say? Like, why did you just call her Bloom? Why did you say she's from Earth? That sort of thing. And Stella's like, I'll explain everything on our way back to Althea. We'll get you guys caught up, whatever. So they get back to campus, and they get caught by Faragonda and Griselda, and Bloom has to come clean and tell them that she's not actually Princess Veranda. She's actually Bloom from Earth. And so Faragonda is like, well, she has to be Magic Bean. So, let's let her stay. She can take Veranda's spot. We have an opening clearly. And so that's kind of what happens. And in the 4Kids dub, that's how the episode ends. With Griselda saying, I thought that fairies, disappeared from Earth a long time ago. And Faragonda's like, well, then who is Bloom? And then that's the end of the scene. But in the Ray English version, we get a scene with the girls back in their dorm. And this is when the Winx Club in the Ray English dub is formed. The girls finish back in their room, and they're talking about a name to name the Winx Club. Stella throws out a few ideas, but ultimately everyone's like, well, I think that Winx is a good idea. And Bloom's like, okay, well, cool. Well, I already have a logo for it. And it's like, whatever. She pulls it out of her drawer, shows it to everyone. And Techni's like, that's great, but like, what does it mean? And Bloom's like, nothing. It's just Winx. I think that is so cringe. It's so dumb. I hate that. I hate that Winx in the Right English dub is just something that Bloom came up with. I don't like it. I don't like that it doesn't mean anything. It's very cringe, but it is what it is. And, if I didn't grow up with the 4Kids dub of Winx Club, I don't know if this would be it for me. I don't know if the Ray English version would have done it for me. Like, I don't think that I would be the fan that I am today if I grew up with this version of Winx Club. So very thankful to have grown up with the version that I did. And yeah, that's the end of the episode. Major events that happen in this episode. Obviously, Bloom gets enrolled at Althea. She meets all of the Winx Club, so Flora, Techno, Misa, and she also meets the Tricks, Icy, Darcy, and Stormy, and we get to see Techno, Misa, and Flora's transformation for the first time in the series. And then, obviously, in this episode, the Winx Club is formed. So you may be thinking to yourself, Lola, what about the 4Kids dub? Did they just not address the Winx Club naming situation? What happens? Funny enough, no, not in this episode. They don't. They don't address this until 2 episodes later. It's at the end of the Black Mud Swamp episode. So yeah, that you have to wait 4 whole episodes into the series before the Winx Club is named in the 4Kids dub, which I appreciate. I like the pacing of it. I like that it gives the girls 4 whole episodes, or I guess 3 technically, because the other girls aren't in the first episode, but it gives all 5 of the Winx, 3 full episodes to kind of bond and get to know each other before they slap a name on their friendship. Like it seems more natural that way. It seems more cohesive, I guess. So yeah, didn't happen that way in the 4Kids dub. It happened in the Black Med Swamp episode. So we will discuss that once we get to episode 4. So some other fun facts about Bloom creating the name of Winx. This has a different explanation in the comics. If you didn't know, and the comics, they started the same year that Winx Club aired in 2004, and there's over 200 issues to date for the Winx Club magazine, the Winx Club comics. And in the comics, she was actually inspired by some butterflies that she was observing. And so she thought of the name Winx Club because of the butterfly wings. But then she spelled it in the dirt and ended it with butterfly wings shaped like an X and turned it into Winx. So that's how it happens in the comics. Still appreciate the 4Kids dub version better, but it is what it is. And then also funny fact about the Ray English dub naming of Winx. Bloom already had this logo drawn before proposing it to her friends to be, a group name. However, we don't know when she had time to do this. Like, she was never shown, being alone, starting from the minute that she met them to when they got back to Althea. So like, when did she have time to create them a whole logo? And was like, I got this great idea, when did she do that? So that's really funny. All right. But the question that we all want to know, what is the most Winx-tastic moment of this episode? This is the segment we are calling Winx Forever Moments, where we dub the most Winx-filled moment of the episode, something that is quintessential Winx that gives just the essence of the whole show in an episode. So every episode rewatch, we are deciding the most Winx-tastic moment of the episode. And I must say that the Winx Forever moment for season 1, episode 2 has to go with, the fight in Downtown Magix with the tricks. It's classic, it's magical, it's everything you want in a magic fairy show. The girls each got to show off their powers. I mean, except for Bloom, of course. But yeah, super classic Winx Forever moment. Runner up obviously would be naming the group the Winx Club, but I don't think I'm not going to give it to the Ray English dub, which is, I might get a lot of flack for that, but I don't think that how it happens in the Ray English dub is Winx-tastic. You know what I'm saying? Like, since the scene doesn't happen in the 4Kids dub until 2 more episodes from now, I'll save it. So, LOL. Sorry, don't hate me. You're listening to the Winx Forever podcast. All right, well, that is the episode. I, a couple of weeks ago, asked my audience on Instagram what episode I should show my husband as his first ever introduction to Winx Club, because if you can believe it, my husband has never seen an episode of Winx Club until today. So I showed him the 4Kids dub of this episode. Don't hate me, but it is what I grew up with, so I am partial. So you guys all voted that this is the episode that I should show him, because it is a great intro to all 5 of the Winx in season 1, and it has a great, fight scene with the witches, whatever. So here are some of his thoughts on his first ever Winx Club episode experience. Enjoy. So I asked my audience what episode to show you for your first Winx Club episode that is like the best, like quintessential, like essence of the show.
Okay.
And everyone said, or a majority of the people said, the second episode, because it's not slow like the first episode. You get to kind of know and see the like main 5 girls meeting and stuff. So basically, what is your understanding of Winx Club before we start?
I mean, it's a fairy show that my wife is really inspired by, I guess.
That's fair.
It's a kid's show that now you're like making a podcast about, which is all right.
Also fair.
I don't know. I mean, you like it a lot.
Is that the only thing you know about the show?
I mean, I know it's about fairies who go to school together.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Okay. That's pretty good. That's a pretty fair, basic working.
Are you looking for more than that from me?
I don't think so. I think that's about what I expected.
Okay.
All right. Well, we're not, and this is probably going to be controversial as well. I'm not going to show you the original Ray English version, which is the closest to the original Italian dub, because that's not what I grew up with. I'm going to show you what I grew up with and why I like it so much. Okay. Cool. I feel like
that literally doesn't matter to me.
I know it doesn't matter to you. It's going to matter to my audience a lot.
Okay. Get over it.
I think that if I grew up with a different version of Winx Club, I wouldn't be this enthralled with it now, 18 years later.
I mean, the people because 4Kids is what? That's not Nickelodeon owned, is it?
No, it was their own production company.
4Kids was what?
They did Pokemon, they did Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yeah. And they knew what they're doing. I mean, they're writing for the American kid. So obviously it's going to be different than like people who aren't American. But like, again, we're American. So I would assume this is what the masses would have watched if it's on 4Kids. So it's what a lot of people grew up, around.
Right. And for a lot of people, it was also like a gateway to like even like anime and like different genres of animation.
This anime before anime was
popular
in America,
right?
In the way that we know it now,
right? And I mean,
I'm not even a cartoons kid, but I watched Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh growing up,
right?
So it's easy access is very much trying to access the wider broad scope, and I guess it did that. So
yeah, good talk. Cool. Let's get into it. That blonde guy, he's not going to be in this episode.
It looks like, what's his face? He-Man.
Yeah, that scene. He's the voice of Yu-Gi-Oh!
It doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, a lot of these.
I mean, this intro is very Pokemon Yu-Gi-Oh-esque.
Yeah, the same like early 2000s Saturday morning cartoon aesthetic.
Yeah. I will say, like, I know this probably aired around when all those other ones aired, but like I could not have told you this existed at all. Like I've never seen this before.
That's amazing.
Whatever it was, it's gone now. Actually, there is an invisible wall. But if it didn't stop me, why can't they get through? Simple. You're a magical being, my dear. This barrier keeps non-magical creatures out of Magix.
Right. Magical beings, yeah. Screw you, you're not magical.
Her poor parents.
Your little bags under your eyes.
He's a firefighter.
You can't go to the school, but here's some tiny postcards.
So, fun fact, this whole scene is not in the original version.
Kiko, you keep an eye on her, okay?
Kiko?
Kiko.
What?
Transport us back home.
Transport us back homeless?
Mm-hmm.
That's such a dumb spell. I hate that.
There's a lot of that in the series.
I hate that.
Oh no, I'm not going to be on the list. Fret not, girlfriend.
What happens if your name's on the list?
I guess.
But
I don't
she's
know.
doing homeschooling instead. She gave me a letter to give to the headmistress. I just won't give it to her, and we'll be.
What a great, wholesome young kids lesson of not telling the whole truth.
I don't know. I hate lying.
There's a lot of that too, also in this show.
We're just not.
This is based on lies, all of it.
Not Lawrence and Celeria. I spent.
Why does she have elf ears?
She might be an elf. He's an elf.
I hate his voice so much.
Him?
I hate that. Yes. Whatever that is, I hate it.
He's an elf.
None of these characters have redeeming qualities.
You've only met like two of them.
So far, 0 for 2.
To do your best at all times. Now, ladies, it's time to check into your.
Why did she clap when she said that?
Get people's attention. I don't know.
Sounds like they prepare you for all kinds of stuff. Do you know what you're gonna
They
be?
prepare you to lie your way through life.
My theory is that if more plants could talk, deforestation would be dramatically reduced. It's worth trying.
We're teaching kids about deforestation at a young age.
I mean, I'm for it. Not deforestation, teaching kids about it.
That's an important clarification.
Anyway, I'm Bloom. That's the word on the street. Yo, if you plan to blow up...
What is her voice? That's the worst voice I've ever heard.
No! Really?
Yeah.
Able to create this new shade of...
Sounds like there's a frog in her throat.
I have a brilliant idea. What do you say we get out of here and go downtown for a pizza? Great idea.
Downtown for a pizza?
What is it like?
Let's go, ladies. Everybody hop on the bus.
We can grab a slice. Horns, rainbows, giants, flying brooms. But that's all fairy tale stuff. This is the real world.
The real fake magic world.
The real magic world. It's both here.
Is it?
Yeah.
Freaking He-Man he just made his own parking spot.
Yeah.
Time for pizza. Yeah.
Yeah, can't forget the reason you trekked all the way to the city.
I don't want my nose to... Wait a minute!
You have a tiny nose for an ogre.
What is this dude's problem?
So meet me at Witch's Alley right away.
Good. First, we're gonna catch her and take her scepter.
So they're the bad guys.
They're bad guys.
They're the bad guys.
Yeah.
Hey, Mom, what if I just wait until tomorrow morning to call you again?
Why does she have to ask for permission to call her mom?
I kinda gotta go.
Like, she just called her. And she's like, oh, just kidding, I gotta go.
Well, Nut.
Big scary yellow guy and girl with hair coming out of her eyes.
No, what?
It looked like hair was coming out of her eyes.
Hair?
Good.
It was like here.
To get that ring.
That's her makeup.
I'm just saying.
Ladies.
Once you see it, you'll never unsee it. Look, the little twirlies look like they're coming out of her eyes.
They're like from her. They're like.
I'm just saying it looks like it's coming out of the outside corners of her eyes.
How pretty I am.
Why do they all have such large heads compared to the rest of their bodies?
Stylistic. Same reason brats do.
I have magic power.
Yeah, and you think they don't have magic powers?
Yeah.
That poor girl.
Idiot.
That is
All these characters are so dumb.
Oh.
Let me show you what real
Not like dumb, like bad. They're just dumb.
They're just like not smart.
Yeah,
Well, they're kids. They're 16-year-old kids.
I'm just saying. I stand by my statement. How did they just plan like a synchronized, like, we're all gonna attack now? Like, they just met each other.
It's magic.
Ivy rope.
Why are they using all their powers on that one dude? There's obviously...
A more imminent threat behind
Yeah.
him.
You are so brave, Stella. Why did you just call her Bloom and say that she's from planet Earth?
This whole thing's built on lies. I will stand by that.
Lying is a central theme in this show, actually. It's really disheartening.
Maybe that's why there's so much discourse around the show.
No, I don't think that's it.
Right. Well, I'm not Veranda, and I'm not from Vallisto.
Look, she comes clean.
Yeah, but this is the second episode. You don't... Why? What TV show needs to lie in episode 2?
Well, you must be punished. Turned into something slimy.
Why is that her first, like, step? Like, you do something wrong, you turn into something slimy, like a frog. I hate you, therefore you are a frog.
Well then, who is Bloom?
Okay.
I thought Bloom was, like, everyone knew she was just a princess.
Not in the first season.
Why?
The first, well, her parents are adopted. She grew up on planet Earth.
Oh, Bloom, not Bloom. I meant Stella.
Stella's my favorite character.
Stella is kind of a biche. She just does whatever she wants.
A little bit.
That's not good. Respect your elders, Stella.
So,
But Stella is a princess.
yeah, Stella's a princess.
No wonder she thinks she can do whatever she wants. What a hoe.
That's true. I like her because she's like really outgoing and kind of like
She's kind of brash.
a little bit.
And that's why you like her?
No, that's not why I like her. I like her for other reasons.
Okay.
She's like an Enneagram 7, like I am. We have a lot of the same like extroverted qualities.
You're gonna let a number tell you who you are?
No. But we have a lot of like personality similarities. She's the designated extrovert of the group for sure.
Yeah, she also lies to everybody.
She literally just lied that once to get Bloom into Althea.
But
Because how are they going to let an Earthling into this magic school like that they didn't even know?
Hey, can you walk through the thing? Okay, cool, you can. You can come in. That's literally why they have the force field.
I guess. It's to keep non-magic beings out of the city of magics, not
Right. She walks to the city of magic. It's like, oh, what up? This girl should go to school. This whole lying thing could have been avoided.
It's funny because lying is like a central theme in the show because the He-Man guy that you affectionately called Sky.
It is He-Man. I don't know what you're talking about.
In the first season, he's a prince, but in the first season he goes by Brandon.
He's a prince.
Because
what was her sister?
As a princess.
The Wicked Witch of the East spread.
But so Brandon and Sky in the first season switch identities because of a lot of different reasons, but mainly
you've lost me.
Now I just really want to make you watch the whole series.
No,
starting from episode 1 so you can catch up on what you missed, and then just
I'm good.
I know that fantasy and sci-fi and crap is not your cup of tea, but objectively speaking,
I mean, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with the show. It's good. But like, I get why you like it.
Mm-hmm.
And like, because I mean, yeah, you're watching this in your formative years growing up every morning watching do they do 2 episodes a week?
They do 1 episode on Saturday morning.
They did 1 episode a week on Saturdays. Yeah. So, I mean, I imagine like, yeah, it's cool because when you think about the other shows that were going on then, like Yu-Gi-Oh, like Pokemon, like none of them were female forward characters or anything like that. So then this comes on and it's a bunch of girls and they're in school and you're in school and they're like older, you know, but they become sort of role models and people that you look up to because, oh my gosh, they're so cool because they have these powers and, you know, they hang out and they get to be friends and it's like,
they're super fashionable and it's a very brightly colored cartoon.
Right. And so they're running around and they're having a good time.
Fighting evil. Girls. Yeah. I love this show. And I know a lot of it is probably nostalgia. Like, I don't know. It's just like a feel good, like, little show. And it's kind of, and it's like weird and like nerdy and dorky, but like, I don't know. I feel like if you like animation, it's a good one.
Well, again,
you didn't grow up watching a lot of cartoons.
I didn't. No, not really much at all. I mean, I watched a few, but it was never my first choice. It's never been my interest, really. There's very, very, very few animation shows altogether that I've ever watched. All that to say, yeah, it's a mixture of a lot of things for you. It was a part of your formative years. You're growing up, you're forming opinions, you're learning how the world works. You're 8 years old and you're in elementary school. You wake up on Saturday morning, you look forward to this because you don't have much else going on, you know?
I'm 8 years old, yeah. But then also taken to the fact that like when we were growing up, like the internet was becoming popular. Like just becoming popular like in the early 2000s. So I discovered the online community when I was like 9 or 10, you know, on the 4Kids site and then on the UK Winx Club site, and then started writing for the magazine and stuff. So it's like,
it's a part of your formative years.
Yeah.
It's been with you through a lot of different. So like, yeah, you're going to feel way more strongly about it than I am.
Right. And I didn't think that you were going to watch this and like absolutely fall in love.
It's very much at its core, just a fairy show. And that's okay. And if you love it, that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm glad you love it.
Thanks. Wow. I am too. Thank you for humoring me. I love you.
I love you too. I feel like you want more from me.
No, that's about what I wanted.
I feel like you wanted me to be like, oh my gosh, let's watch the next episode. And I'm good. I love you. And I'm glad you love this show.
But it's not for me, dog.
That's a no for me, dog.
You know, disappointed as it is, I love him anyway, even if he doesn't fall in love with my favorite fairies. That's okay. Thank you so much for listening. Tune in next week as we go over season 1, episode 3, Althea College for Fairies / Save the First Dance. And we are going over it with my very good friend, Stella, Fairy of Magix. So I am super excited to have her back on the show. So be sure you tune in for that. And we will see you guys next time. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode of the Winx Forever podcast, be sure to follow or subscribe on your preferred streaming platform to be notified when new episodes drop. You can join in on the conversation when you follow at WinxForeverPodcast on social media. The theme for the Winx Forever podcast is the song She Makes Magic by Big Wild.